Well, Shaw viewers, what a treat it is today to be coming to you, and forgive me for looking, around, but I'm here in City Hall Park today, as you could probably tell. And this is the kind of season, frankly, that I call the before season. And what I mean by that is before things really start blooming and looking so incredibly good, and so on. So if you get a chance, come down to City Hall Park and check us out. Everything is ready to go for the flowers and the shrubs and so forth. So just come down and enjoy the before season and really treat yourself.
Wonderful. Council reviewed the annual financial report on Monday. What is the purpose of bringing the financial report to council?
The financial report really is the community's report card as it relates to the dollars and cents. It really takes the journey, if you will, from property taxes and user fees like transit fares and recreation payments, things like that, your utility bills. So it takes the trail of the money that comes in, and it tells the story of the money as it comes out. And because it's public money, it's your money, it's my money, then council is the approving authority for any expenditure of public money, and therefore must be the approver of the financial statements. So it's vital that council see the statements and approve them, which they did at the last council meeting.
Thank you. What is the significance about this report that you want to mention to viewers?
Well, I think our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. McIntosh, said it best when he said it's a COVID story. And 2021 very much, as everybody in the community knows, was affected by COVID. So our revenues were down, but correspondingly our expenses were down, and we actually ended up with a higher surplus than we budgeted. So that was a good news story if something could come out of COVID from a financial perspective. There's a couple of, what I would call cautionary things for us to look at. Our reserves went down, our operating reserve went down, our capital reserve went down a little, our debt went up, but not unmanageable in any way. So as our auditor said, and as our Chief Financial Officer said, the report was strong, and we're positioned very, very well for what I would call a rebirth, a renewal in 2022.
Wonderful. First reading of the several amendments
Yes.
Community Standards Bylaw were passed by Council Monday, with a request for more information to come back from the third and second reading. What is the Community Standards Bylaw and how often is it amended?
That's the Community Standards Bylaw, I would say, is really the most foundational public bylaw that we have. So in other words, it looks at peace and order and activities in the community and tries to regulate a balance between neighbors, between neighborhoods, between walkers and bikers and all those things, traffic, for example, and so on. So it's a very significant bylaw. It tends to be amended from time to time, depending on factors that we see in the community, changing standards, things like that. The last time it was amended was 2021, and that was around derelict properties. Council made some changes to how we look at derelict properties. So of course, on this particular reading, we had several amendments to look at: livestock, noise, shopping carts, for example. So it was a busy afternoon at Council, particularly as it related to the Community Standards Bylaw.
And what recommended amendments is Council considering in line?
Well, let me start first of all with the livestock matter, if you will. So Council gave first reading to the livestock provision, and essentially the way a bylaw works is if something isn't prohibited, it's allowed. So it can be quite broad. It can be, very, very broad. So we were getting questions, our administration, I should say, more than, and councilors too, were getting questions about, can I keep pigeons? Can I keep a goat? We had one gentleman, actually, I'm not kidding, Shaw viewers, I'm not kidding, actually asked if he could keep a buffalo on his property in the city. And so when council looked at the bylaw, they asked administration to define what livestock is. So in other words, put a definition in the bylaw defining livestock, and therefore we could prohibit or allow depending on the definition. So now we have a much cleaner and tighter bylaw. People know what they can keep and what they cannot keep. And of course, we still have second and third readings, so people still have a chance to send their views to us and so on. The other couple of factors that were on the bylaw were noise, which we may be able to hear today. It's very orderly, not very noisy today, but neighborhoods can be noisy. Motorcycles, modified mufflers, parties, chainsaws, lawnmowers, you name it. You know, the super stereos, if you will. My God, there's an old word, stereo, but anyway, all good. But noise can be problematic, particularly traffic noise. So noise was broken into two sections. One was noise in your neighbor's backyard, for example, or your backyard. And the other was traffic noise and what affects traffic noise. So we passed the first reading, which is all about decibel levels and what are called sound meters. There were things actually called sound meters that can monitor decibel levels of noise as to what's noisy and so on. And the other side was neighborhood noise and what causes a disturbance in your neighborhood or in your neighbor's backyard or in your backyard. So same procedure, we passed first reading, so we still have second and third reading, which we anticipate will be May 9th. The shopping carts item came up as to how shopping carts are maintained, and particularly for those folks that have 50 or more shopping carts, so your typical supermarket, large retailer, that kind of thing. Council wasn't resolved on some of the what I would call standards or regulations in the bylaw. Asked administration for more information, particularly around ticketing and so on, what an offense you know should be deemed and so on. So I anticipate, probably by the 1st of July that'll come back to council.
Does the public have an opportunity to give feedback on the proposed changes?
They certainly do, and in fact, that particular bylaw, the Community Standards Amendments, came out of a broad community consultation in 2020 or so called We're Better Together, and that was a community-wide consultation process. So we heard a lot from people around livestock, around noise especially noise, and shopping carts. So there's about 10 days window left for people to email administration or call the mayor's office, call your counselor and express your view. The important thing is this kind of bylaw is not a land use bylaw, so it isn't subject to public hearing. So we don't have a public hearing on a bylaw like this, but we do consider the input always of our citizens. So yes, they still have time.
Thank you. On Monday, City Council approved first reading of proposed amendments to the Vehicle for Hire bylaw.
Yes.
To align shuttle services operations. What is the purpose of amending the bylaw and aligning shuttle services with existing bylaw requirements for all other vehicles for hire?
Well, you know, it's really a tale of nimbleness, if you will. And the reason I say nimbleness is when we brought the Vehicle for Hire bylaw in, you know, you consider taxis, of course, and you consider ride-sharing services like Uber, for example, you know, that kind of thing. But as it evolved over time, we discovered, administration, the community, certainly the industry, discovered that there was a gap in shuttle services. So there are shuttle operators that do business, of course, in our city. And typically what differentiates a shuttle service from a taxi cab or an Uber is a shuttle has fixed points of pickup and fixed points of delivery. So if I wanted a shuttle, for example, from my hotel to the Westerner, that's a fixed point of access and a fixed point of delivery. So when we passed first reading of the shuttle service, we talked about fixed points of access, fixed points of delivery, and fixed fares. So in other words, shuttles, unlike Uber and taxis, don't operate on a meter kind of system. They don't sort of accumulate. It's sort of, if you want to go from, for example, the professional building to South Point Common, it's going to cost you $7. That's an example, of course. But that is a typical shuttle service, fixed point, A to B, fixed cost, and that's not covered under the Ride for Hire bylaw right now. So it will be once the next couple of readings go through. At least I anticipate. I shouldn't say that. I anticipate they will be.
Thank you. Is there anything else from Monday's council meeting that you would like to mention to our viewers?
Well, other than the mayor getting ahead of himself just right there, that wasn't good. But anyway, as I said at the start today, this is the before season, so I know I'm on camera and I'm pleased to be looking at you today, everybody out there. But around me today are people on bicycles, they're on picnic benches, there are busy sidewalks, there's a vibrancy in our downtown, our restaurants are filling up, our hotels are filling up. It really is a terrific time to come downtown. So if you can, over the weekend, the weather's supposed to be good, it's supposed to be great. Treat yourself, come downtown and see what the heart of Red Deer is all about. And this is Mayor Ken saying next time, we look forward to seeing you, and take care.